Kathy Monroe of First Presbyterian to give the invocation this morning, and Councilman Stacy Bull to lead us in the pledges.
Holy God, we thank you and praise you, Lord, for this day. We ask your presence here among these people, these wonderful commissioners. Lord, we ask that you would lead, guide, and direct their decisions, Lord, that they would have a positive impact on all who are involved. Lord, we bless your name. We ask your blessings upon our community, and we just thank you for the opportunity that we have to serve in it. In Christ's holy name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we'll now move to item 4, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of minutes for held on June the 11th, 2024.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried and approved. Okay, item 5 calls for public input. At this time, is anyone is allowed to speak on any matter other than personal matters or matters under litigation. Do we have anybody that wishes to speak?
Just one moment. Morning, everyone.
Good
I'm
morning.
Karen Hunt from the Chamber, and I'm here just on behalf of the Chamber to thank the City of Sweetwater for their support and boots on the ground in the recent Sparks in the Park. We could not do it without the City of Sweetwater, for Dana Stanley and the Parks Department and the use of the pool, the hours that it took to have the park ready and then clean up afterwards, and then also our Sweetwater Police Department, who I heard at last hour running kids out of the dog park. And so we just, that's that secure measure and safety measure. And then last, the Sweetwater Fire Department, which this being a really dry year, I was very nervous. Tad Baird just put me in my place and tried to make me as comfortable as possible. But I will say that Chris Costin from Pyrrhic Fireworks, he's the pyrotechnician. He said the best boots on the ground support and backup crew. He complete faith in our fire department, and they did an awesome and outstanding job. So between the Chamber facilitating it and organizing it, and the 60 plus individuals, businesses, organizations funding it, and then our City of Sweetwater and the departments that make it possible, this is truly the best community event I think we have all year. And so just thank you to the City of Sweetwater for allowing us to do it, and backing us up and making it possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll now move to item 6, which is to hear a presentation from Kendig Keyston Collaboration on the midpoint update for all the zoning and land use ordinance. We got no volume to that.
You're muted, Ashley.
Sorry, am I able to share my screen now, or do you all have the presentation up? Okay, I'll try to share the screen.
there.
Okay. All right, so for today's agenda, we're just gonna do a quick recap of the project timeline and the work that we have done so far in this project. And then we're going to talk about just a general overview of the Module 1 contents, and then a little more detail about the proposed zoning districts. And then we'll just talk about next steps, and then there'll be time for questions and discussion if needed. So just to remind you all who we are, my name is Ashley Woolsey. I'm the project manager for this project, and with me is Brian Mabry. So we have been the ones working with you all. And the recap of the project timeline and the work done so far. We started this project last October, and you can see with that yellow arrow there that we're right in the second phase of it in the iterative drafting. So we're about halfway through. And just to have like a reminder of the work that we have done so far as part of this project, we've had several meetings, both in person and virtual, with the city staff, the administrative working group. We did do focus groups with stakeholders whenever we did our first visit there in October, as well as doing some field reconnaissance. So we had a city guided tour with some of the city staff members. That way we are able to observe the existing development patterns within the area and look at key areas around the city that they wanted to highlight. And we have also delivered the annotated outline, which was the document that was kind of the guide of how the new ZLUO is going to be set up. And we presented that to the AWG as well as a joint session of you all in the Planning and Zoning Commission. We also have delivered the code diagnostic report, which was a more in-depth report that was an audit of the current development related regulations and what are proposed suggestions or things that we had suggested to be changed. That was also presented to the AWG and then a joint session of the City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission. And then we have also delivered the Module 1 draft, so that's the first part of the ZLUO document, and that has some stuff that we'll talk about, what the contents of that are. And that has also been presented to the AWG and the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we got some comments and requested revisions that we're working with them on. So like I said, we're just going to do a general kind of overview of what is contained within Module 1. The first article is general provisions. So this contains things like the purpose of the UDC, which are listed there, the jurisdiction, which is basically applies to land within the city limits. And it also includes other basic provisions like what the code will be referred to as within the document, the authority to have this kind of code by the state, what date the code will become effective. And it also has directions on what controls if the document conflicts with itself or conflicts with other documents. So a little bit of a guidepost there for kind of typical things like that are pretty standard in all codes. Article 2 is zoning districts and dimensional standards. So the first part of this is the zoning districts established. So this lists all of the base zoning districts and the overlays, and it shows how they align with the future land use map and the approximate alignment with former zoning districts. It won't be an exact one-for-one comparison, but it kind of gives users an idea if they were used to the current code when the new one gets implemented, kind of where they would be at in that. And then the official zoning map section explains what the zoning map is and how to interpret the boundaries if there's ever a question about them. As part of this project, there will be an update to the zoning map, but that will be delivered later in the project once we have a more finalized zoning district, make sure that all of the comments and revisions that we get have been worked out for that. And then it also contains district standards for each of the districts. And we'll go a little more in depth in that in a second. But just as a general outline, each district will have a purpose statement that explains what the district would optimally be used for and what development within that district would look like. And there are tables in each of these districts that have the specific dimensional requirements for developing land in that area. So it has things like lot area minimums, lot width minimums, minimum setbacks, maximum building heights. That picture that's on the right there is an example of what that looks like within the document. And then, of course, within this, we have a lot of illustrated graphics, and that picture to the left there shows an example of what those look like within this article. Article 3 contains the land uses and standards for those. So it has a consolidated land use table. So it shows all the use permissions by district all in one place instead of just a list in the individual zoning districts. So it is a quick reference. So it's really easy to see. Let's say you wanted to see what districts allow a car wash. Right there you can see which ones allow it. Or on the other side of that, if you're like, I have a property that is going to be in the downtown district, what is allowed there? So you can see all of it at one time, and it's just an easy read table, and you don't have to keep flipping and looking at lists. And this also contains the use categories, which is basically a system to be able to classify the land uses based on how they function or their common characteristics. So this allows it's where in the use table, you don't have to have every individual use called out. For example, with the office use category, instead of having to list out every kind of office within the use table, you can just say office uses within the office use category. So it just kind of cuts down on what's needed to be listed in the table, and it allows for new uses to kind of fit within the existing category. So if a new use comes along, that was something that was unexpected and, it's not listed specifically within this document, it's like a mechanism for staff to be able to figure out what category it would best fit in. And then this article also has the limited and conditional use standards. The limited uses are administratively approved, so as long as it meets the standards that are there, it can be approved on an administrative level. And then the conditional uses require a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and then City Council approval. So all the standards for those are listed in Article 3. And then finally, accessory and temporary uses. So this has the standards for accessory uses like carports, accessory dwelling units, garages, anything like that. And then temporary uses and structures like commercial outdoor sales events, construction dumpsters, portable storage units, different things like that. And we'll go into detail now about the proposed zoning districts. So first of all, I wanted to kind of acknowledge that some people might not understand where these districts come from. So I just wanted to explain where we got this information. So the zoning districts that we are proposing are derived from the land use types that are described in the future land use map. In addition, with other documents that the city has adopted, the information that we gathered during our stakeholder interviews, our conversations with staff. So all of that input went into us proposing these districts. And just a reminder of what the future land use map is it's the primary decision-making document that guides the desired future development in the city. It's adopted as part of the comprehensive plan update. And in general, it details the land use types with some examples of land uses within the type, appropriate locations, intensity, size, how they will interact with each other, et cetera. So that's all laid out within the future land use map. And with regards to the proposed districts, we went from having 13 districts and we have eliminated that down to 8. So we were able to eliminate districts that were unused or districts that were very similar and didn't really have a distinct difference between one another, and it wasn't necessary to have that many zoning districts that similar. And then since we are able to condense down, we were able to add in flexibility to a lot of these zoning districts. So we're going to allow multiple housing types, for example, be able to allow accessory dwelling units in residential districts, have a mix of residential and non-residential uses in some of the districts to keep things as flexible as possible while also maintaining standards to make sure that everyone gets the outcome that you all want as a city. So here are the 8 base zoning districts that we have proposed. There are 2 that are mainly strictly residential districts, 2 mixed use districts, which means it allows for both residential and non-commercial uses. One pretty strictly commercial use, although there will be some like apartments that are allowed to use in there, but not like a single family home, for example. 2 industrial districts, and then 1 agricultural district. The first residential district is the suburban residential. So this is for lower density residential uses. The developments within this district would be of a suburban character, and it may include things like parks or other open areas. That on the right there, you can see the dimensional standards that are proposed. So as you'll see once we see some of the other ones, it's a larger lot area than the other residential districts, larger setbacks, etc. This would be for kind of greenfield development, new typical suburban houses. There's some picture examples of what that could look like. And then the next district is the traditional neighborhood district. And this is to provide a mix of low to medium density housing types on slightly smaller lots than the previous district. This will typically have a suburban development pattern with smaller lots, smaller setbacks, and shorter blocks. But large apartment developments and large areas with giant parking lots would still be not compatible with this district. So it's a little bit of a step up in density from the suburban residential, but still not a super high density area. This is what a lot of like conventional cities had developed before there were zoning regulations. So there's some examples there where there's a mix of housing types. So at the bottom, there is 2 single family homes, and then there's an example of a duplex, and then the upper left is an example of a cottage court development. And as you can see on the right there with that table that outlines the dimensional standards, the lot area is a little smaller than the suburban residential, as well as the setbacks. Neighborhood mix is the first mixed use district that we're proposing. So this is to provide for a flexible mix of lot sizes, residential and non-residential land uses, and different housing types. But the commercial uses within this area still need to be context sensitive. An example is a conversion of a residential structure into a business or neighborhood scale development along avenues and higher intensity roads. And some examples are shown in the picture below. The top picture, it's kind of hard to see the sign, but it's a residence that was converted to an accounting office, but it still fits in with the residential character as it was previously a home. And it is on a more major roadway. And then the one below that, there is a commercial development that's built next to a residential, but it's still within the scale of the residence. And developments within this district would be to help bridge pedestrian and auto-oriented developments. So pedestrian connectivity in this type of district would be really important. So sidewalks, as you can see in all the examples there, are something that are really important. And large parking lots that separate the building from the street would be out of scale for this type of district because it would break up that pedestrian friendly scale. Again, on the right, you can see the dimensional standards for this district. There are ones for residential uses and then non-residential uses, but they're pretty close to the same. There's just some extra setback requirements if it's abutting a residential district versus if it's abutting another zoning district if it's a non-residential use, for example. And the next mixed use district is downtown, and this is to provide a concentrated mix of commercial, office, residential uses with some small scale craft or manufacturing or maker spaces. So not some huge industrial endeavor, but something small like a artisan example would be like soap making. It's not going to be something that's a large scale, soap manufacturer, but if someone makes homemade soaps, having the ability to do something like that and just creating a more flexible kind of space for them to do that within is the idea here. And developments within the downtown should be consistent with the existing historic character. Mixed-use development with residential uses on the upper floor and commercial uses with large windows on the ground floor are going to be encouraged in this area. As you can see with the dimensional standards here, there's not a whole lot of minimums. And in fact, there is even a maximum setback so they can, in the front, so they can only be up to 10 feet away from the property line because we want to have that pedestrian friendly wall of buildings that encourage activity and seeing into the buildings. And the next is regional commercial, and this is the commercial district, and this is to provide for a wide variety of high activity uses with a mix of general commercial, service, retail, and other compatible uses. So it's hoping to attract customers not just within the city limits, but from the whole general area. And developments within the district are going to be typically auto-oriented and should be placed near high traffic intersections and highways. And if you look to the right there, there's not a lot minimum in this district, but it does have fairly substantial setbacks. And this is the district that, you know, large parking lots could possibly be appropriate for. And the next one is light industrial, and this is to provide for less intense industrial uses with operations that are fully contained within the building and cause minimal effects on adjacent properties. These can be campus style, and they're typically located along major rail or highway corridors. So there's some examples of that below. So, you know, things are mainly taking place out inside the building. There is still going to be allowed to have outdoor equipment outside, but most of the operations are going to be inside that building. And then the heavy industrial district, and this is to provide for concentrations of industry and trade that may result in effects that surrounding properties would consider a nuisance, such as sound, outdoor lighting, outdoor storage, truck traffic. Developments within this district are going to be located along major highways and roads, and ideally includes solid opaque screening to shield the view of industry areas and minimize noise where that is appropriate. And as you can see, the examples that are shown here, these are very large scale industrial sites that a lot of activity occurs outside and could have things like smoke or light or something that could affect adjacent properties. Again, with this, they're like larger setbacks than the light industrial, the height allowance is higher. Okay, and then the last district of the base zoning districts is the agricultural district. And this is to provide primarily for agricultural operations and agribusiness with some support for rural business uses like sales of equipment or something that is used for agricultural. Very low residential uses like a ranchette, so a home that is part of like a farm would be appropriate. And it is mainly intended to protect and preserve valuable agricultural areas and pasture lands. Developments within this district, as you can imagine, are typically rural. They're less developed areas of town. It consists of large lots containing mostly open space. So for this Quinn the lot area, minimum would be 1 acre. So these are large spaces compared to the other lots. And then, Brian, did you want to talk about the special purpose and overlay districts?
Yes, thank you, Ashley, and good morning, council members and staff and general public. There are 2 overlay districts proposed for this update. And so an overlay zoning district is, think of it as a district that adds additional flexibility, in this case, to a property that falls within it. So the Gateway overlay is one of those overlay districts that we have proposed. And it's going to allow offices, restaurants, and retail, regardless of whether the base zoning district for that property that's within the overlay allows them or not. And so we would propose that to apply this overlay to properties with frontage on I-20, on Lamar Street, Broadway, and Haley Streets. And of course, this would show up on the zoning map too. We're not just, saying in words in the ordinance that it applies there, but also be visible on the zoning map. This will open up more land uses to property owners along those corridors and potentially save them from having to rezone their property in the future if they would like to do one of those uses I mentioned, which again were the office type land uses, restaurants, retail in general. Now there could be in the future, as we keep working through this draft, higher standards for landscaping or signs or parking or something within that gateway overlay, since it is covers more prominent areas of the city where the city would probably like to kind of put its best foot forward. But sort of in exchange for slightly higher standards in those corridors, the zoning ordinance would be allowing more land uses maybe than what the current properties can do. Excuse me. Sorry about that. The infill overlay is the other overlay zoning district that's proposed. And as the name implies, it facilitates infill development. That infill development is when a property owner develops a property that is sitting fallow or vacant, but that at one time had been an active, property with something going on it. It's usually surrounded by developed properties, where it might be an entire block or group of blocks even that are currently kind of vacant and just sitting there. So it's sitting there and can be kind of a vacant and detrimental to its surroundings, not contributing to the tax base, things of that nature. So there are certain things that a zoning ordinance can do to make properties like that more attractive to develop for a private property owner to develop them. In this case, we propose to add more uses to the property, like we were proposing to do with the gateway overlay. But also this time it would be offices and residential land uses that could take place on the property, even if the base zoning district wouldn't allow for that. We also are proposing smaller lot area than normal and narrower, less minimum lot width requirements as well, and relaxed setbacks. All of those things are attempting to make it easier for these properties to be developed by having a smaller lot size, a narrower lot width than minimum, and easier setbacks to meet. There's more work that we would be doing on these two overlays as we keep working on Module 2, which again are the standards related to signs, parking, landscaping, those kind of things. So we will work on those aspects of these overlays as we on Module 2. The next 3 slides here show areas that are proposed for the infill overlays areas. These were selected based on what the comprehensive plan recommends, our analysis of aerial photos of the city, and also consulting with city staff too. So this first one, and these aren't in any particular order, this first one is bounded by Douglas on the north, Kiowa on the east, Broadway on the south, and then Hoyt to the west. You go to the next slide. This one is Douglas to the north, Kiowa to the east. I think that's sorry, I have the wrong. I had some notes and I'm misshowing there. Sorry about that. Alabama to the north, Peace to the east, Arizona to the south, and then Coke and Hillsdale to the west. And then finally, for this third slide, East Avenue A is on the north. Burke and Newman make the eastern boundary there on one side, and then kind of going in. East Avenue D and B make that one south boundary, and then the other south boundary. And then finally Musgrove to the west. So those can give you an idea of the boundaries we're looking at for these 3 overlay areas. Hand it back to Ashley now.
Okay, so since we're finished with that, the next thing that I wanted to talk about is just next steps and important upcoming dates. So we're working with staff to finish revisions to Module 1 based on comments from them, the Administrative Working Group, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and some stakeholders that were given the ability to review and give back comments. And the delivery of Module 2, which has the rest of the ordinance in it, so everything that's outside of the land uses and zoning districts, basically. So things for landscaping and parking and the procedures for this code, all of that will be included in Module 2. And as of now, we have the draft being delivered on August 19th. And then the initial draft of the updated zoning map we have right now scheduled for October 15th. And then the delivery of the public review draft, which is a combined draft of both modules 1 and 2 after they have their revisions done to them. And right now we have that scheduled for November 18th. So those are just some important upcoming dates. And that's all that we had. And we just wanted to open it up to any questions or discussions that may come up if anyone on the council had any questions about the project so far.
Any questions?
I don't have any.
Thank you.
Okay, so it doesn't seem like anyone has any questions. All right, well, thank you so much then.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 7A, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of the quarterly investment report for the quarter ending June 30th, 2024. Any questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now move to item 7B, which is to receive insurance proposals for health, dental, and life benefits for fiscal year 24-25, which were opened on Monday, July the 8th, 2024. Staff will work with the broker of record to evaluate the proposals and will present recommendations to the council at the August 13th, 2024 City Council meeting. No action is required at this time. Nancy, you will take the lead. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to item 7C, which is discuss, consider, and act upon an ordinance declaring structures on described property within the city of Sweetwater, Texas to be dilapidated and or deteriorated and unfit for human habitation, so as to require repair, rehabilitation, and or demolition, providing a time for which to rehabilitate, repair, or demolish such structures, and provide for the repair, rehabilitation, or demolition and removal, which requires a public hearing for each property. At this time, Samantha Mora, interim city attorney, will swear in Lynn Barrett, director of planning and zoning, for her testimony regarding the property in the public hearing.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in the matter pending before the city council is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? I do.
Do I have a motion to open public hearing?
Make a motion, we'll public hearing.
Second.
So this is
All in
another
favor?
of our
Okay.
somewhat regular appearances for dilapidated and substandard and hazardous structures. This particular one is at 609 West 9th Street. I believe there should be a slide illustrating it. It is in poor shape. The picture actually doesn't do quite the same justice as how actually dilapidated it is. We did notify the owner, got the notice back undelivered, and so, which is typical, it seems lately on these cases. And so we, when we do send out the letter, just as a reminder, we do invite the owner to come forward to speak, or to present how they intend to bring this structure up to code. Again, no one has appeared today, so staff is recommending and requesting that it be issued an order for demolition.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak regarding 609 West 9th Street? Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion for declaration of dilapidation and/or deterioration and unfit for human habitation and order repairs, rehabilitation, and demolition of 609 West 9th Street within 35 days of date of order? Motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, now move to item 7D, which is to hear a presentation from Lynn Barrett, Director of Planning and Operations, regarding code enforcement update.
This will be my last kind of update on planning, permitting, and code actions. I am resigning effective the 22nd to move near to family, and it has been an honor serving the citizens of Sweetwater and working with you all for the, I guess, 14 short months I've been here. We did have one tear down last month, and we had one variance case, which was for a carport. I will point out that one of the, they did touch on it a little bit today. We are going to put in some less restrictive language in our zoning code to allow fewer of these carport variances to come forward, so that there will be relaxed setback standards to allow citizens to have protection for their automobiles in the front of their homes. So we should gradually see fewer and fewer of those once the new zoning code is implemented. We did issue 57 building permits. We have the resignation of our building official, so that there were some reduced numbers on inspections and some of the notices that went out due to the fact that he was not on staff. However, we did hire and replace him with Ray Salinas, who came to us with his certifications and experience from the city of Fort Worth. So we're extremely pleased to have been able to find someone to step into some pretty big shoes to fill. So all in all, we sent out quite a number of high grass and weed notices with the recent rains, and we are doing some mowing with our city contractors. Any questions?
Lynn, thank you for your time and service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Manager's report.
Yes, sir. SNAP is kicking off their annual fan drive. With the summer heat already upon us, let's come together to support our seniors and keep them cool and comfortable. They're collecting fans to ensure everyone stays refreshed during these hot summer days. Your generous donations will make a world of difference for those in our community who greatly need the help. As of today, we've collected 19 fans and $1,360 in donations to purchase fans. Most prefer the standing oscillating fans, so we'll be purchasing 20 of those this week. In the police department, we've recently given a corporal promotional exam, and after that exam, we've had 3 promotions. Those include Jeremy Bohall, Braden Beal, and Curtis Hamlin. I think Braden Beal is the only one that was able to attend today, so we'd like to congratulate all 3 of you on your accomplishment. That's all I have.
Tell them all we said congratulations. Call for a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn. Second.
All in favor? If not, you can stay.
Of the